This is Small Business Conversations with Akona Machoba, unlocking essential advice, opinions, and key issues that affect South Africa's small business community.
Welcome to yet another edition of the Small Business Conversations podcast, Moneyweb's weekly SME show highlighting critical issues affecting South Africa's small business environment. This week, we have on the pod Nigel Jacobs, the co-founder of Jacobs Jam. Nigel, together with his wife, ventured into the sweet staple spread business in 2018, and in about 5 years, they've managed to secure a retail partnership with the continent's biggest retailer. Not only that, the Western Cape-based family business is also exporting into Africa. Thank you for joining us, Nigel.
Good morning. Thank you, Akona. Thanks for that lovely intro.
First things first, you and your wife started the business in 2018, like I mentioned, and that was just before the world and the economy was thrown into the chaos of the COVID-19 pandemic. Can you speak to me about why you and your wife decided to leave your corporate jobs to venture into this business? And also, are there any regrets on your timing?
Thank you, Akona. Thanks. Good question. So my wife and I, we met each other 15 years ago, and she was still studying. I was just about finishing my studies. She studied food technology and I was a marketer. I studied marketing. And we knew back then already that we would start our own business in the food industry because it's very seldom that you get a food technologist and a marketer as a couple. Now, those are critical skills in a food manufacturing business. So we worked for more than 10 years in corporate and we timed our venture into entrepreneurship almost perfectly. You know, we got the experience and the skills and the knowledge from the corporates. And while we were working for them, we were also learning from them on how to start our own business. So we started in 2018, and you're right, because that was just before COVID and everything seemed perfect for our launch. And then just as we were about to build the factory, our loans were approved and we were building the factory, COVID hit us. And the second question, do we have any regrets? We don't think so. Definitely not. When we started production, it was in the midst and in the heart of COVID. And then we had the other issues in the country, like the floods in KZN, the riots in KZN, the war in the Ukraine, and currently load shedding. And our business knows nothing other than challenges and difficulties. And we've weathered all the storms. So we consider it school fees and life lessons that we're learning now in the tough times. So when the tide turns and there's a lot of positivity going around, then we would know how to handle it because we were born in difficult situations. So we wouldn't change anything regarding the timing and the launch of our company.
Sure, I think that's such a valuable perspective there. Your business is basically built in with resilience. You know nothing but hardship.
Correct. That's 100% correct.
Speak to us about the Jacobs Jam value proposition. What makes the product different from all other such products in the market currently?
So there's so many differentiating factors around our product. And when we launched, we studied the category and the industry. And we specifically went into jam because the category was not innovated or disrupted in about 50 years. It was a very stagnant category. You've got two very big brands and big players and no other big player on a national basis. You've got smaller jam companies that act in regional specific locations. And we saw that as the biggest opportunity because it's considered a sleeping giant. We also often say that there are few things more South African than jam. You know, you can think of biltong and Mari biscuits, and those types of things, but jam is right up there with a core South African, just being South African. It's also about being or loving jam.
I was speaking to our technical producer here in studio, and I was saying jam is such a staple in many households. We grew up with it. Whether you loved it or not, it was there. Can you speak to us about the process of making that jam? We normally just get a ready-made product off the shelf, but what are the steps that are involved and what are the costs as well that are involved in getting each and every product to the buyer?
So jam is a very, or let me rephrase, our way of making jam, it's an homemade approach, but there's a significant amount of science behind it. And that's where Kristen's expertise as a food scientist comes into play. And we often refer to it as making jam is similar to baking a cake. If your temperatures are not right and your ratios are in your recipe is not right, I mean, one ingredient can be out by 2 or 3%, and then the jam will not set. And we refer to it as the jam will flop, like a cake would flop. So it's a very technical and very scientific method and process that we follow in our factory. And in the end, we get the most delicious jam out of it. But yeah, it's not an easy product to manufacture. And then also, once again, our Christian's expertise comes in. We manage our costs and our inputs to make the jam as affordable as possible for the average consumer, the average South African. And we consider it a premium product at a value price point.
And the costs involved, can you touch on that, please?
Costs involved are quite high. A big input would be fruit and sugar. And we all know where the commodity prices are currently. Sugar is one of the products that jumped the highest in price over the last couple of difficult years. And yeah, it's not a cheap product to manufacture. And then also, if you look at our scale, the volume that we produce, there's a lot of high input costs that goes in to service the customers and the market access that we just recently acquired. So it's they are incredibly high commodity items that goes into the manufacture of jam.
You mentioned sugar being one of the key ingredients in the jam jar that we buy off the shelves. We've seen from food producers, beverages as well, they've complained or have raised concerns about government's recent implementation of sugar levies, sugar taxes. And I was wondering, since you've raised the ingredient as one of your key ingredients, does Jacob's Jam have an issue with that? Is that something that you are also watching as a business and are invested in ensuring that government does away with the sugar tax, or at least decreases it or halts it for a short period of time?
Yeah, it is difficult to manufacture with all the high levies and costs that's imposed by the government. Currently, the sugar tax is only limited to beverages, example, carbonated soft drinks and fruit juices. And it's a component of sugar that's extra, that's higher than a regulated limit. And for now, jam is not included in the sugar tax or the sugar levy, but it is something that we're monitoring quite closely, because if such a sugar tax is imposed on us, at the end of the day, the consumer will bear the brunt, and we all know that the consumer's pockets are already very thinly stretched. So to impose another sugar tax, it would just mean that the consumer will be hit even harder with rising costs of goods or rising costs of groceries. But it is something that we are monitoring closely.
And Nigel, forgive me, I'm jumping around here a bit, but on this sugar issue now, and you mentioning your keen eye on the progressions on this discussion with government, but I'm also aware that one of your future plans as Jacob's Jam is to possibly venture into fruit juices. Is that something that you're also factoring into your plans on when to exactly enter that market with everything that's affecting, especially now that we're speaking about the sugar levy?
Yeah, definitely. So our objective and our goal when starting the jam company was to start a food group. So, the big food groups in South Africa, example would be Tiger Brands, Pioneer Foods, and Rhodes Food Group. So we believe that in the coming years, the Jacobs Food Group will be positioned at that level with those companies. And the first launch that we would consider would be sauces. So we're working on a tomato sauce and some other sauces to add into our basket with the jam. And then at the later stage, we will consider the fruit juices, but it is on our to-do list. And you'll see that part of our objective and our strategy is to incorporate fruit as a golden thread and a key ingredient in all of our products. So all the products that we'll launch in the years to come will contain fruit as a main ingredient. And we won't venture beyond that or away from fruit. Our factory is also based in Ceres, in the Western Cape.
Yes, the fruit capital.
Yes, the fruit capital of probably Africa. All the best fruit comes from Ceres and surrounds. And when we have no other products, we consider sourcing the raw material from within 150 kilometers from our factory. So we are investing in primary agriculture. We are creating jobs in primary agriculture. And ourselves as an agro processor, we are also adding value to the category.
No, that's quite big plans you have there, and we will definitely be on the lookout for that growth that you've just touched on. The big news that I also mentioned earlier is that Jacob's Jam managed to secure a big deal with ShopRite. That happened in 2022, I believe, and ShopRite is the largest retailer on the continent. Can you speak to us about how that deal came about?
So that story is a story, probably our biggest story of resilience and not giving up and not taking no for an answer. So when we started the business in 2018, we started with a business plan and we accessed finance. That took about almost 2 years. And we built our dream factory, and that took another year, for example. But during that time, we were speaking and engaging with the retailers. And let's say between 2018 and 2020, the mood was positive and the retailers were forthcoming. And then when we started our production, it was in the middle of COVID and the mood changed. The retailers became more conservative. And the answer to us was that they could not list us. And I speak in considering all of the retailers in South Africa. The answer was the same. Consumers are conservative. The world is in turmoil. Consumer spending is limited. And the retailers are not taking on new brands because consumers are buying products that they used to. They're not adventurous. And to put a new product on the shelf would mean that you need an adventurous consumer to try the product. And that was the answer to us for 2 years, 2020 till 2022. And if we use Checkers as an example, we were engaging with the guys, and the answer was always a difficult answer that they could not list us. And we went back every month or 2 months. We'll make a phone call, send an email, have a Zoom meeting. And the answer was always just, we cannot list you. But myself and Kristen, we looked at each other and we said, we are not going to give up. We only know difficulties and we only know difficult times. So there should be light at the end of the tunnel and there should be an opportunity for us. We just have to wait it out. And then in October 2020, guess what? ShopRite called us. You know, we didn't call them. They called us and they said, the time is right now. They want to list us in Checkers. Considering our brand architecture, it's more premium, it's a value offering. It fits perfectly with the Checkers landscape. And, you know, that was the first big breakthrough that we made. And it came off probably 50 odd no meetings, no phone calls, no interactions. And eventually we got the yes. And I think that's also good for other entrepreneurs to just hang in there and wait it out, continue to push, continue to engage, and eventually your window will open. Kristen often says that if there's no window or door to go through, you break through the wall and make your own window. And that's exactly what has happened with us. So after Checkers, we made the breakthrough. We are happy to say that there are more retailers that has come on board now. And it's the big retailers in South Africa that has also come to us now and said the time is right. Even though the country is still in some challenging times with load shedding, etc., consumers are looking for new products now. They want excitement, and our jams will be on the shelves within the next couple of months at all the big retailers.
Wow, that's encouraging news to hear, and congrats to you and the business. I'm sure that is just testament to your resilience and nature to not give up when people tell you no. With this ShopRite deal, and now obviously there are many more on the cards that you've mentioned, what has the impact been on your financials? I'm sure securing such a big deal is now opening more doors for other deals, but what has this deal done for your financial performance?
So we work on forecasts, and we forecasted for 2023, one big retailer will allow us onto the shelves. And we are now looking at 3 retailers taking us in 2023. So it's thrown the forecast and the budget out, but at least we planned for it. And our company is supported by a number of institutions, whether it comes to financial, mentorship, business opportunities, and it's some of our state entities. You know, our big loan is with SEFA, the Small Enterprise Finance Agency. And then we are also supported by CEDA, the Small Enterprise Development Agency. Also, the DTIC plays a role in our business, and we can approach those entities with purchase orders or contracts, and we can get finance or bridging finance or overdraft facilities to soften the blow on our cash flow and make it possible to pack this big jump in demand without hurting the business too much.
And then for production, what does this mean? I mean, you already have ShopRite, and you're speaking of potential big retailers coming on board in the next few months as well. What does this mean for Jacob's Jam production capacity? Does this mean you guys are going to be ramping up manufacturing and building more plants?
So we big dreamers, and we live in a world of positive energy, and we look at a positive future. So when we started the business, we started at scale. So we built a big factory with a very limited market, and we went on the feeling and the belief that the market will develop over time. And when the market develops, the factory is already in place. We have the capacity. And that is different to how many businesses start, because they would start off small, get the market, then build the capacity. We did it the opposite way. And in order for us to service all of our customers and all the demand that we're realizing now, we have to ramp up production by creating or employing more people and introducing more shifts. So if you look at it, the machines are there. We just need to utilize the downtime and implement, for example, a night shift, weekend shifts, and we will create another 20 jobs in our factory to sustain the growth. But the capacity in terms of equipment, it's already there. And, it was a big gamble for us to risk all of this on a market that has not realized yet. And that's why we were so persistent and so resilient. We couldn't take no for an answer, because we built a big factory with the idea that the market would come after that.
You and your wife are very brave to think that way, and I see it's paying off. Just a point of clarity, Nigel, is Jacob's Jam available nationally, or is it still concentrated to the Western Cape at this point?
At this point, we would say that 95% of our sales are in the Western Cape, and our products availability is in the Western Cape. We have outlets in the Southern Cape and the Eastern Cape, and we don't have any distribution in Gauteng or KZN or the other provinces. We don't have an online store, and we don't do direct sales to the public. And the simple answer to that is we just don't have the manpower for it. For us to courier one tub of jam has the same amount of administrative work than it is to send one pallet of jam. And that's not our core business. It's not doing direct sales. So if there are any distributors or companies that has access to the Gauteng market, we would be open to consider partnerships with those companies. But currently, our distribution is focused on the Western Cape.
And those deals surely are going to increase your reach to other provinces, yes?
Correct, yes. And how the ShopRite Checkers deal works is they started us off small in the Western Cape on a number of stores. Then they increased the stores, and they increased the stores over time to help the small business manage the growth. And that has really helped our company, because if we had gone into all of the Checkers stores in nationwide, I think it would have been too difficult for us to handle all at once. So ShopRite Checkers would say they bring you in and they grow you organically. And over time, you'll see that you will become distributed in one region, and then the next region will be added, and in the next region. And so they assist the company to manage the growth, and it's not just all at once, and you set yourself up for failure. And we have the same model with all the other retailers as well. It's a focused regional launch, and once the milestones are reached and the objectives are reached in one region, they open you up to the next region. And we would advise other small businesses to follow the same route, because to take on too much in a short period of time can also hurt your business.
And Nigel, I don't know if I'm trying my luck here. Is there any way you could just let us in on who these retailers are? Because I'm hearing retailers, but I'm really interested in knowing which retailers you are referring to.
Okay. So, of course, the first one is Checkers with the ShopRite Checkers group. That opened the door for us, and that was the major breakthrough that we needed. So we are also speaking with ShopRite, which is part of the same group, but on the development of a house brand or private label for ShopRite. And this is still very, it's in discussion phase, but ShopRite launched the homegrown brand a few months ago, where they request small businesses with scale to produce a private label that's focused on a specific targeted audience, and the brand is called Homegrown. And we've been tasked on developing the jam product for the Homegrown brand. So that's another big partnership with the ShopRite Checkers group. We also have an approved listing with Pick n Pay, and that will be in the Western Cape. Also part of the Enterprise Supply Development Division. And the listing was approved 2 weeks ago, and it's in the admin phase now. So during the admin phase, it can take about 2 months before the product goes live on the system, and then we would say another month before it reaches the shelves. And then the third one also confirmed listing, and also in the admin phase, but it's very close to the end, is with the Spa Retail Group. And we have an approved listing for the Western Cape and Namibia. It's a very good deal. It's listing via the distribution center. So we would make the jam in Ceres, send it to the Western Cape warehouse, and then Spa would take the logistics from there to all of the stores. And those are the big ones that we've signed up. So Pick n Pay, Spa, and ShopRite and Checkers.
Lovely stuff to hear. And then, as we just near the end of our conversation, can you touch briefly on, I understand that Jacob's Jam is also exporting currently to Zambia, I believe. And I just want to understand if that is something that you guys are doing independently or through your partnership with ShopRite at the moment, and also just plans on export, and touch on the challenges or difficulties that are involved into taking food products from South Africa to other African continents, and if there are any challenges that you have had to deal with in that process.
So we started exporting within our first 6 months of production, and it was good at the time. And we were selling our products into ShopRite and Pick n Pay in Zambia through a third-party agent. And sadly, currently, the volumes going to Zambia is a lot lower, and it's linked to the high cost of exporting currently. The rand-dollar exchange is not favorable, and we decided to also continue exporting, but not bombard the market, and also not dilute or reduce our pricing to maintain our price point and our brand architecture point. So the exports are a bit slow now, and it's okay because there's enough people in South Africa that also consumes jam. So as the export market is shrinking, we are growing our local market, and we're quite happy with that because selling on the local market is a less risk than selling at an export market. However, when the tide turns again, we will be ready for Africa. Our objective has always been to manufacture jam and sell it in South Africa and the rest of Africa.
And what are your expectations for that tide to turn? What are the timelines that you are working with currently as Jacob's Jam?
That is something that I can't, my crystal ball hasn't given me that answer yet. Yeah, I think we need a lot of things to change, specifically on the rising input costs and the rising exchange rate. And once those things become easier and lower, then we would consider putting a lot more effort into our exports. But currently it's the unknown, and yeah, I don't have a educated guess at when that time would be. And for now, all of our energy is focused on getting the product to South Africans, to our brothers and sisters right here in South Africa.
The jam line has 4 flavors, mixed fruit, apricot, strawberry, and pomegranate. That's what I am led to believe. All the challenges facing farmers, you mentioned that you get a majority of your fruits in Ceres, the fruit capital, I keep saying. How has load shedding, water shortages, changing weather patterns, how has that experience brought challenges to the Jacobs Jam business? Are you finding difficulties with your farmers and where you're sourcing your fruit?
Well, currently we don't have any supply issues on fruit. The amount of fruit that's cultivated and grown in the Western Cape, it's enormous, So our business is still considered a small little. We take a small bite out of the entire pie, and other constraints like load shedding that is really hurting our business a lot. And part of our growth plans to supply and to satisfy the market demand that we've worked on for the last couple of years is to venture into alternative energy supply and alternative energy sources. So we recently upgraded our factory with some inverters and batteries to get less dependent on the grid. And other plans that we have would be solar energy and steam boilers, and also generation capacity. That is actually a big capital expense that we're working on currently to finance that, because we cannot maintain and sustain our company and the growth if we are faced with stage 6 and higher load shedding on a daily basis. So for now, it's okay because our capacity at the factory is higher than the sales and the demand that we have. But in the coming months, that ratio and that balance is going to be thrown out, and then we have to be ready. And for that, we need to implement alternative power or energy supply. But that's difficult for small business. And what we would like to encourage South Africans to do, anyone listening to this podcast, is if you see a small business on the shelf at a retailer or any store, support them, buy their products, because it's a very difficult time to be in a small business and to be self-employed and to be an entrepreneur. And only with the support of the public, these businesses and our businesses will succeed and continue to grow and continue to create jobs. So yeah, that's my short little story for South Africans. Support each other and support small business.
A lovely way to end off our show today. That is Nigel Jacobs, the co-founder of Jacobs Jam, speaking to us about their story of resilience, persistence, and just letting us know there that if there are no doors or windows open, that it's probably best to break the wall and make your own window to allow entry into the fruit production market. Thank you once again for joining us on the show, Nigel.
Thank you, Akona. It was lots of fun. And I hope you have a good day further. And if you see our jams on the retail shelf, please buy it. Support us.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and follow Small Business Conversations. And don't forget to share our episodes. If you want to contribute to the conversation, you can tweet me at machoba_a, or you can email us at smepodcast@moneyweb.co.za to share your thoughts and suggestions for future conversations. Until next time, goodbye and thank you.
You've been listening to Small Business Conversations with Akona Machoba. To listen to more Moneyweb podcasts, go to moneyweb.co.za, the Moneyweb app, or your favorite podcast platforms. Moneyweb, your trusted source for business and investment insights.